Alright, so we officially had our first slightly big, sort of noteworthy trade rumors of the season as news got out that the Pelicans currently have both JJ Redick and Lonzo Ball on the trade block, and to be honest, I can't really blame them, and I think this is something that we all should have seen coming. When specifically talking about Lonzo Ball, the signs of his departure from New Orleans were starting to become very evident in this past offseason, where the Pelicans decided to trade for Eric Bledsoe, and then they also went out and drafted Kyra Lewis in the lottery. Now, obviously, these are both guys who play at the guard position, specifically the point guard spot. So, at the time, it didn't really make quite a lot of sense considering they already had Lonzo Ball. It was looking like he could be one of the foundational pieces who could play alongside both Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson for the near future. But Lonzo Ball's play so far this season has just shown the exact opposite. To this point, he's shooting 39% from the field with 29% accuracy from 3, and he's still around 58% from the free throw line. And I think it's safe to say now that we're 4 years in that I'm just not quite sure what it's going to take for Lonzo Ball to become a respectable shooter in the NBA, because we've seen him change his form, we've seen him change the type of shots he takes on average, we've seen him change a lot of things about his shot, and just nothing seems to be working at this point. There's even been a noticeable drop-off in just his rebounding numbers, his assist numbers, and his defense in general. And all in all, especially in a contract year, this was not at all what I expected from Lonzo Ball. I was expecting, as most players do in their final year of their contract, they play well enough that they can go out and get a bigger contract once they hit free agency. And so far for Lonzo, this is just not going the way I bet he intended. Add in the fact that the Pelicans are currently 5-10 and find themselves second to last in the Western Conference, it's just all shaping up to be a sort of roster changing type season. Obviously, they have two great cornerstone players in Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. While they are both great players, they still obviously have their flaws, but that's not what this video is for. This video is about Lonzo Ball and the fact that he is probably going to be shipped at some point leading up to or at the trade deadline this year. Because not only have his numbers been very awful to start the season, he's proven time and time again that he just can't be trusted to be on the court at the end of games. He doesn't provide enough offense. He's not a respectable enough shooting threat that defenses can just leave him alone. They know he's there just to facilitate, and it essentially means that the Pelicans are playing 4-on-5 offensively, whereas they could easily be doing better with other players on the roster. Now, with all this being said, this isn't to say that Lonzo Ball is a bad NBA player. There are still very many things that he does well on an NBA court. He is a great facilitator. He's shown in the past that he can play good on-ball defense, and although at times he has some, brief lack of awareness or whatever that leads to some mistakes, he has shown it before, and I fully expect him that he'd be able to show it again, that he can defend at an NBA level against some of the best guards in the league. The point that I'm trying to get at is that New Orleans just isn't the place for Lonzo to blossom. It never has been. I don't think it ever will be. And as I already mentioned, with the additions of Eric Bledsoe and Kyra Lewis, and the fact that Nickeil Alexander-Walker is starting to take a leap in his second year in the league, Lonzo already had a window that was closing in terms of opportunity, and now this window is just being slammed shut on him. And it's not only his play on the court, but there have been plenty of other off-court instances as well where he's just not been on agreeable terms with the New Orleans Pelicans. Dating back to last season in the bubble, there were times where he was called out for his lack of effort, and it's just been that story over and over again in different scenarios where it just seems like he's very disconnected from New Orleans as a franchise in general. So it would make sense for the Pelicans to go out and make a deal and potentially get some return on this failed project. And I mean, in the end, obviously he was drafted by the Lakers. He came over in the Anthony Davis trade. The Pelicans definitely took a chance on him while they hit on other players in that trade as well. Lonzo, unfortunately, was just one that didn't work out. But fortunately for the Pelicans, there is still a chance that he could have a good enough return value that he could at least, not lose him for nothing. And even with Lonzo playing pretty awfully to start the season, I still think that there are plenty of teams out there who would be willing to give him a shot, although I'd imagine it'd be in a very different role, as we've seen that Lonzo the starter is not a great player. He's not someone that's going to be useful in his minutes. He's not someone that's going to help you get towards an NBA championship. Whereas if they were to play Lonzo in more of a point guard off the bench role, defensive specialist, someone who could come in and give your starter some rest and just be able to run a second unit offense. I think that's something that would perfectly suit Lonzo Ball because he definitely has enough talent to be in the league for, a decade or more. Guys like Rajon Rondo, Andre Miller, those are all guys who were not great at scoring the ball, but they're still able to make a career in the NBA just because they're able to run offenses very well. And obviously, in some cases, like with Rondo, he was great at his job and he was able to be a star in the league for a couple years at a time. But Lonzo, I just don't see him going down that same path. I see him kind of settling into a more, I don't really want to use a direct comparison, but like a Ricky Rubio, where he came into the league, he was very hyped up. He then went on to underperform, to say the least, and yet he still made a great career out of just being a floor general for maybe not the best units in the league, but for a unit in the league. Overall, the point I'm trying to get at is that Lonzo was doomed from the start in New Orleans. Obviously, him and Zion had a great connection that was very fun to watch. I will always enjoy those lobs that they had together. But in the end, this was just not a scenario where Lonzo Ball was going to win. Especially with the Pelicans going out and spending capital on other point guards to bring onto the roster this season. I think it became very clear, again, just to make the point, it became very clear that the Pelicans were transitioning to a post-Lonzo era for their team once his contract is up. And I would very much assume that they're going to try and get a trade done before the deadline or at the deadline, some legal time this season where they can at least get some picks or a player in return. It's very disappointing to see Lonzo's promising career start on a downward spiral, but hopefully he can get into the right situation and start performing, and who knows, maybe he can prove that he is still a starter caliber player in this league. That'll do it for this video. As always, leave your comments down below with your opinions on Lonzo and the trade rumors. Outside of that, leave a like if you enjoyed this video or enjoy this type of content, and as always, most importantly, thank you for watching.